Great armor, god of blood, demands sacrifice. Many have come in search of glory, but only a chosen few may enter the arena. For those that remain, there is only victory or death. Let the battle begin!
This is Blood on the Sand. I'm your host, Todd Humanson.
And I'm Urs McCommentator.
And we're here with the thrilling results of Round 3. These have been some of the most exciting fights we've seen yet, so let's get into it.
Our first bout of the day saw yet another diminutive matchup for heavyweight Treadwell, the grizzly bear man. His enormous sword cut clean through two insect opponents in prior rounds, but this time he faced Redacted, the kobold thief.
Little Red trained hard on his evasion prior to this match, but Treadwell still managed to score first blood with a hit to the arm. However, the kobold flew into a berserk rage and landed a forceful hit to the leg, bringing the bear down to the arena floor. You know what they say, Urist? The bigger they are, the harder they fall.
Aye, Treadwell's evasion has always been his weakness. But after taking a knee, he made good use of his shield to defend himself, biding time until he landed a crippling blow to Redacted's foot. After that, he all but ended the fight with a clean cut that spilled the kobold's guts on the arena floor. Though Red kept fighting, Treadwell carved him to pieces, and the little fellow soon ran out of blood to give to Arma. Treadwell advances to the next round.
Although we never learned his name, Redacted certainly made his fellow kobolds proud this match. Here's hoping we see more of these little guys next year. Next up, the crowd was roaring with excitement for the return of Macho Crab Sandy Ravage, Chief of the Reef, the Typhoon of Knife Wounds, King Crab of the Crustacean Nation. He stopped to wave to his adoring fans before squaring up against his opponent, Gary the Cannibalistic Gazelle Baker.
Gary made mincemeat of his last two opponents, and came to this round hoping to dine on crab. But like any good chef, he had to tenderize his meal first, starting with an expert stab to Sandy Ravage's leg that dropped him to the floor.
Not one to be outdone, Sandy Ravage returned with a leg slice of his own, and the two fighters rolled around on the sand in a deadly grapple. After getting up close and personal, Sandy Ravage started slicing off piece after piece from the Gazelle Man. Once he lost his spear hand, it was all over. But in a final attempt of cannibal madness, Gary tried to take a bite out of the crab champ before bleeding out.
Cowards die many times before their deaths. The valiant never taste of death but once. For all his culinary oddities, Gary the Gazelle was a true warrior. May he rest well in the feast halls of Armok's realm.
In any event, Macho Crab Sandy Ravage advances to the quarterfinals against Treadwell. What are your thoughts going into this match, Urist?
Well, based on what we've seen here, Sandy Ravage may be facing his toughest and largest opponent yet. Though Treadwell has been injured in every match so far, he's never let it stop him. The crab will have to deliver a decisive blow and end this fight quickly if he wants to survive.
Moving on to our next match, Dwarven Princess Tholtig II entered the arena to a deafening cheer. But in a stunning surprise, Tholtig came without the iron armor she wore in her last match, gambling everything on her skill with her twin axes.
Against her stood Wild Boar Man Hogs the Feral, who purportedly could be heard laughing all throughout the arena quarters when he heard of this fight, and again on the sands when he saw Tholtig's lack of armor. This mad beast man has no respect for honor or lineage. Only the thrill of battle.
Unlike the last matchup, these two fighters were evenly matched in size and skill. They deftly parried each other's blows, with the roar of the crowd reaching a fever pitch as they eagerly awaited first blood. But they turned to cries of horror when Tholtig took a spear to the gut, followed by devastating stabs to the leg and arm that cost her a weapon and her footing.
I won't lie, Todd. I think this one put a few grey hairs in my beard. But in a stunning reversal, Tholtig lunged forward and took Hog's weapon arm clean off. Fueled by royal rage, or perhaps the blessing of Armok himself, she bashed the boar man's tusks in and hacked him in two on the arena floor. After such a dramatic comeback, this match will be written of in Dwarven sagas for generations to come.
We had a chance to get a statement from Tholtig's manager after the fight. Here's our ringside reporter on the scene.
I'm Nilale Longstride, here with Blood on the Sand. Here, I have Tholtig's manager. So, having bested Hogs, are there any other contenders that Tholtig is concerned about?
None. Losing is impossible, for the royal blood is too strong. But, let that be said, Tholtig believes in Cirrus. she will face her in the finale.
That's a bold prediction. In any event, we wish her the best of luck. And now back to the studio.
Moving on to another dwarven hopeful, horror hunter Ortinar the Harrower brought a strangely crafted adamantine axe to this match, hoping to cut through his opponent's steel chainmail.
And that opponent is none other than the slender contender, the legless lover, the sensuous serpent, the anaconda man, whose name we are still not allowed to say on air due to broadcast regulations. Let's just say this villainous warrior brings a new meaning to the word bloodlust.
Ortinar certainly had his work cut out for him, and he came in swinging. The snake parried expertly, but finally took a hit directly to his chest, which merely damaged his armor. Emboldened, he lunged forward and punished Ortinar with a deep leg cut. And after deflecting another strike, he grabbed the dwarf with a savage bite and shook him around like a toy.
Ortinar eventually managed to get out of the snake's clutches, but his foe followed up with a disemboweling strike, leaving Ortinar helpless to resist as the anaconda man hacked him to pieces. Another dwarven hero falls, and the snake advances. Let's hear what he had to say after the match.
I'm here again with, well, you know his name. Now, do you have any comments for the press on your most recent victory?
Certainly. This fight was a sweaty, tense affair, but ultimately, Ortinar was dominated by my hypnotic swordplay. Dicing him to frilly, lacy ribbons was a pleasure in every sense of the word. However, I have something to get off my chest. Passionate souls and hot bods like mine are unjustly persecuted by the prudes of this world. I fight to cast off society's fuzzy pink shackles and rise to stand firm against this injustice. It is with this spirit in mind that I offer a message for my next opponent. Tholting, I hope you're nice and limber, for I slither towards you with a burning passion which will only be sated by the most rigorous of exertions. Win or lose, we'll give the audience a heart-pounding show. I hope you're ready, princess, because I certainly am. And to the esteemed members of the press, say my name, you cowards!
Oh, back to you, Todd.
Well, I don't know about you, Urist, but I'm certainly scared for my life.
This is why I live in a fortress, Todd.
Moving on from that nightmare, our next match had the bettors excited. Cirrus Windpaw, winner of the Battle Royale and Unstoppable Killing Machine, against Evola Silverthorn, the Elven Sword Maiden. Each of them has proven their mastery of the blade, but only one will continue on to the next round.
After emerging from the armory, however, the two fighters took different strategies. Cyrus doubled down on her deadly attacks with an adamantine rapier, while Evala chose to shore up her defenses with steel armor.
The two fighters circled each other before leaping at one another, swords singing through the air in an astonishing sequence of parries. After trading nicks and cuts, Cirrus got an opening for a savage slash at Evala's midsection, and the steel chainmail saved her from being disemboweled. But her next strike hit Evala's foot and sent her to the floor.
We've seen many comebacks from such a position, and Evala was on her way to one. The two continued to clash blades, and after losing her offhand to a lunging strike, Evala took the chance to slice Cyrus in the ribs, leaving the cheetah woman wheezing as she retreated. Lung wounds like that never bode well.
Fortunately for Cirrus, she caught her second wind and pushed through the pain, unleashing a flurry of counterattacks and earning her the chance to cut off Evala's left arm entirely. The Elven Maiden managed one more staggered swing before blood loss and shock finished her off. After a true battle of equals, Cirrus Windpaw advances.
Evala fought well, but in the end, it came down to luck. But Armok's hand is fair as it is cruel. Next up, we... yes. Say, Todd, all this excitement sure makes me thirsty.
Then why not refresh yourself with a nice cold can of Windfall coffee, the drink of champions? Made with mostly organic ingredients and almost ethically sourced, this little can has all the energy you need to power through to victory.
I hear if you put your ear to the can, you can hear the wind calling your name.
Windfall Coffee, now available at the Arena concession stand.
Moving on, the next match saw unexpected upstart Duke Grubugosh against heavyweight Scar, the Lion Man. Grubugosh's adamantine gauntlets have been surprisingly effective, but his real secret to success is his boneless anatomy. Against Scar's mace, his odds looked rather clean.
Well, Scar sure didn't get this memo, because he came with both a Morningstar and flail. These spiked weapons looked menacing even from the announcer's box, and as the fighters clashed, it took Grubagosh all his effort to dodge and parry the Lion Man's attacks.
After a healthy spar, the fighters began to exchange savage blows, with Scar's Morningstar striking deep, bleeding craters in the Worm Man's rubbery flesh, and Grubagosh's gauntlets striking vital joints. A 1-2 punch took out Scar's leg and disarmed him of his flail, but the Lion Man roared with vengeful fury and smashed the Duke's left hand clean off.
I don't know what to call the sound Grubagosh made after that, but he lashed out and knocked Scar unconscious with a punch to the head, after which he kept punching until the Lion Man's face caved in. This was a stunning display, one more brutal and bloodthirsty than I expected from the noble Worm Man. Duke Grubagosh advances again.
I'm told there was an attempt to interview with the Duke, but it didn't go so well.
Duke, how do you feel about your—
My hand!
We'll reattach it, sir,
Don't you fools understand? That was my poetry hand! No fine wormish lass will accept love letters in a shaky print. Oh, Grubbelina, why? Oh.
A real champion, this one. But though Scar perished, his death proved one thing. The Duke does have a weakness.
That may be so, Urist, but Cirrus will have a hard time exploiting it in the next round. If the Worm Man armors himself right, she may finally meet her match. Next up, mirthless Spearcat Kisa faced off against Great Axe-wielding Polar Bear Man, Borm of the South. We reached out to their managers before the fight, and Borm's coach said that he was, quote, terrified of this single-minded Spearcat. Meanwhile, Kisa's manager declined to comment, for his own safety.
Perhaps that's why Borm chose to invest in armor this round, and it certainly paid off. In a surprising turn, this ended up being one of the more one-sided fights today. Kisa's spear bounced off Borm's armor over and over, while Borm's axe came down again and again until it started drawing blood from the Ocelot Man. After a particularly nasty hit, Kisa fell to the ground paralyzed, and Borm took his head for a trophy. Borm of the South advances.
Borm has got to invest in a more effective weapon. That sharpened slab of copper takes a long time to get results, and in the arena, time is the one thing you can't afford to waste.
And so too here in the booth. Moving on to our final match, Bearman wrestler Leg O'Beef the Glazed faced Ironhorn the Minotaur and his steel spear. I dare say this was a mirror to the previous match, as this bear really needed more armor.
Well, according to his manager, Leg O'Beef has a reason for that. Like his predecessor, Minotaur Lego Lamb the Delicious, the Bear Man fought for a simple dream, the dream of freedom from pants.
That's rather noble, I suppose.
Well, noble goals never won a fight. As the bell rang, Lego Beef tried to charge in and get a grip on Ironhorn, but he was punished at every turn by the Minotaur's spear. His wounds quickly added up and he collapsed from pain, leaving Ironhorn free to ring his helmed head like a bell until he stopped moving. In a decisive victory, Ironhorn advances.
We're told Ironhorn's manager has a press conference planned, but I'll say this now. Borm and Ironhorn will be worthy opponents for one another.
Well, now that we're at the end of our program, let's take a look at the bracket for the quarterfinals. Who do you have your money on, Urist?
I'm no betting man, but this year's crop of contenders will be a harvest of glory for Armok. And to those who have fallen, your sacrifices will be remembered.
That's all the time we have today. Tune in next time for our coverage of the quarterfinals. I'm Todd Humanson.
And I'm Urus McCommentator.
Here on Blood on the Sand.
Support comes from Bay 12 Games, creators of Dwarf Fortress, and from viewers like you.